Okay, I'm recording. So I've watched this VOD a couple times now. I haven't watched the end when like they attack again and you attack again because I honestly think there's enough information just in your first rounds to go off of, and there's a lot to work on, or rather, the things that need to be worked on require a lot of work, and I don't want to distract you from them. So I might go through later and just comment like micro things you could do, like blocking shadows with bubble, maybe improving this bubble, improving that bubble. But overall, you were at pretty high energy. Like there was at one point in the VOD where you had something like 65% average energy, and then it seemed like you were at least 50% for uh, most of the VOD, which is frankly you don't need to be higher than that. Like if you're sitting at 50% average energy, that's good. There is there are some moments where you seem to be stuck at zero energy, and I'm going to talk about that when it comes up. But overall, I actually find your bubbles like pretty solid. Admittedly, they're a bit delayed sometimes, but um, well, we'll talk about it when it comes up. The more pressing issue I think is uh, is positioning in two aspects. One is the ranges that you play at, right? So if you imagine, if we get the pen out, if you imagine like this is you, your zarya, and this is your like vision area, you're looking this way. There's like two axes you can move, right? You can move left and right, or you can move forward and back. And so when I think about how you can be moving and positioning yourself, like where you want to be, when I think left and right, I think cover and walls. When I think forward and back, I think range, right? So there are two ways that you can reduce your damage in Overwatch. You can play behind cover, or you can play out of range of the enemy. Uh, Playing cover just means sticking to corners, and I'm not even going to point it out verbally. I'm going to go through and leave a comment when I just think you should be playing your corner and you're not. And hopefully that kind of gets the point across as to how you want to be playing corners. When it comes to range, it's a little more subtle, right? Zarya has no fall off damage. At her right click, if it hits them, it does damage. There's splash fall off, so being more accurate is good with the right click, but like, shooting a right click across the map versus shooting a right click at melee range does the same damage, depending on, like, obviously it depends on your energy, but like, there's no fall off damage. And then similarly with the left click, you're either in range or you're out of range. And so what that kind of means is either you're able to do damage with the left click or you're not able to do damage with the left click. But that's not true of the enemies, right? So if you have someone like Soldier 76, the further you are from Soldier 76, the less damage you're going to take because he has fall off. Which kind of means you want to be as far as possible while still being in range of your left click. And that's where the concept of maximum effective range comes in, where basically you want to be as far away as you can so that you take as little damage as possible while still being effective. Now with Soldier, his maximum effective range is going to be wherever the damage fall off starts and wherever you can still be accurate with your tracking. With someone like Mercy, your maximum effective range is just going to be max beam length. With someone like Brigitte, maximum effective range is probably around your shield bash range. And I guess the range of the flail is probably similar. So kiting that maximum effective range, staying at that as long as possible, is one way to stay very safe while also exerting as much pressure, dealing as much damage as possible, and as a result, you're going to minimize downtime, right? By minimizing downtime, I just mean you want to be doing stuff as much as possible. Now, when you talk about Masters players, typically you say that Masters players tend to overplay the game and that they try to do too much too often and they're not efficient. That is like so not a problem for you. Uh, Definitely we should be looking at how we can be doing more. And it turns out, I think it should be pretty straightforward. Uh, I'm gonna call things out as they come up. But with respect to energy, I think you do a good job of just using bubble when things are taking damage, and you get high charge. So as long as you're high charge, I'm not going to be mentioning bubbles, just because I don't think it's necessary. But let's seems to be okay. So let's watch this fight. Your team is getting pressured. You're moving in. Now, I don't know if you've counted how many shots you fired, but I'm pretty sure it's 4, right? At the enemy. Considering how high Zarya's fire rate is, like I think you could have straight up been doing more damage. And just shooting more is a way to do more damage. You don't need to aim better necessarily if they're all clumped up like they were. You just straight up need to shoot more. And so right now you're at 15% ult charge. You could realistically be at like 20, 25, 30 maybe if you were higher charge. And so it seems kind of dumb to say, but like you're just kind of shooting slow, right? So when you're talking about minimizing downtime, one aspect is going to be just shooting faster. And I'm going to want you to go through this VOD after and just try to pay attention to times when you're just not shooting when you should be. Maybe you're reloading too often, maybe you're just deciding not to shoot. But times when you're straight up not applying damage because you are not pressing left click or right click, that's a problem. And should be an easy fix, but if you make note of that as you watch the VOD again, it'll probably help reinforce that. So, yeah, just shoot more. Right here, this is a perfect moment to talk about maximum effective range. Look at your distance to their Reinhardt shield. That is the only thing you can apply damage to right now because it's up. You are within hook range, right? Well, okay, first off, you're within Zarya beam range, obviously. But are you at maximum Zarya beam range? The answer is obviously no. So when you're talking about how far you want to be from the enemy, you are already closer than you need to be, okay? So let's say you took 5, 6, 7, 8 steps back. Do you still want to be further away, right? Because right click has longer range than left click. That depends on what damage the enemy can do. And just because, I was just reminded of this because he throws the hook, the way you're going to dodge hook is either by getting out of hook range or playing behind cover, right? You can move forward, back, or you can move left, right. If you can still be effective, right, behind cover, either by peeking out and spamming right clicks or by playing with your Ryan shield and using that as cover, then that changes where your like most effective place to stand is. The main thing I want to get across is if you just straight up took 3 steps back and 1 step to the right, you would A, be safe, and B, still be able to apply damage. Now, I get there's a soldier on the high ground, but like, I think you're still safe from that ish. My point is, you're not behind cover, and you're too close. Conversely, talking about maximum effective range again, I think you back off too far here. And the reason I'm saying that is because, again, Zarya's range, like you want to be as forward as you can while still being safe, right? You want to be but you also want to be as far back as you can while still being effective, right? Those are the two things at play. So you're at half HP, but your Ryan still has a shield, and you have the payload for cover, right? Reinhardt, payload. Which means that, like, that range you want to be playing is wherever you can be safe. I feel like I'm explaining this poorly, but basically you're not doing anything right now because you're too far away. That's all I'm trying to get at. And you're not far away for very long, but it is time, where you walk off too far, you do nothing for a good couple seconds there, you apply no damage, you come back, and now you're applying damage again, right? But those precious few seconds could have equated to quite a lot of alt charge, especially since now you're at 68 charge. So just making sure you kite that range properly where you're at roughly max beam length is gonna, I mean, it should just help you do more damage to build alt charge, right? Because you can't do damage past a certain range, and you don't need to be closer than that range. Now you almost die here, and you get really scared. And this is where not shooting comes into play, because now again, I think you back up too far, because standing 1 foot behind the Rhine shield is the same as standing, you know, as far back as you are behind the Rhine shield in terms of safety. But also you're not shooting, right? You can shoot through the Rhine shield. Shoot. Here again, you go too close. Again, there's the damage you apply to Rhine shield is the same at all ranges, so you can just stay at the max range. You guys get a big tire. And so this is going to sound really harsh, but realistically, I actually don't think you contributed like significantly, or maybe even at all, to that fight win, despite the fact that you had very high energy. Like you were at 70 charge for not quite a lot, for a reasonable amount of that fight, and you were at 50 for a good portion of it. So to play in a way that depends on the team less would be to just play cover, right? Because your team doesn't affect cover. And to just shoot more, right? Like your team can't shoot for you, you have to shoot. But you guys did win off the back of a huge tire. There's not much to say there. That was a sick bubble, by the way, to block the hook. But again, right? He uses hook. Hook is the biggest threat against you. And here you're backing off, right? Against the Roadhog that doesn't have hook. And is basically free alt charge. Right? So you're still not shooting. You're shooting a Mercy that's out of range. Now you're shooting the Roadhog. But that's like quite a lot of alt charge that you could have gotten because he was being healed. And probably a kill that you could have gotten that, I mean, it just took longer than it should have. Again, you're just not shooting. Now here you are playing the corner, which I really like. Yeah, you have to back off, obviously, because they're pushing in. And again, you want to stay at that distance, right? Where you can shoot them, but they can't shoot you. And so this is roughly it for right clicks. I think you're a little far for left click, but it's good because you're safe, right? Again, supporting the team, that's good. Going to cover, that's good. But I think you kind of overcooked it in the sense that, like, I know you say you want to play in a way that's not dependent on the team, but like your team's to your right, you want to be with them just a little tighter, and then that way something like Visor isn't going to threaten you as much, right? So the decision to exit cover behind the payload and particularly kind of leave your Rhine when you hear the Visor come out, a little debatable. I don't know. I want to frame everything in terms of this maximum effective range business because I think it's super, super, super important. So we see their Reinhardt charge in, right? As he gets closer, the range that you're allowed to be, like the distance you're allowed to be from the rest of his team gets further and further and further, right? Because the Rhine gets closer and closer to you, right? So if you just completely fucked off, left all the enemies behind except for this Reinhardt, he's the only thing that determines your maximum effective range because he is the easiest thing to deal damage to, right? So like, shoot the fucking Reinhardt is what I'm basically saying. Like your positioning should be determined by what you feel you can do and how you think you can be safe. So where is safe behind cover, i.e. behind the payload? Where can you do things within range and LOS of the Reinhardt that just charged suicidally? So where do I want you to be right now? Right here behind the payload. Because you want to be minimizing downtime, because you want to be playing your range correctly. Yeah, I don't know how to phrase it any differently than that. But basically, you just want to be like doing stuff right now. Right now, you're shooting a soldier. Now, shooting the soldier, if your tracking was like really good, definitely the right play because you're getting healed. But your tracking is not good, so like I just don't think you should take this 1v1. Brig gets the kill because Brig. Is that Reinhardt still alive? I don't actually know, but anyway, no, yeah, okay. So the fact that did he come back? Am I stupid? I am stupid. Okay, he came back. Yeah. The rest of it is basically going to come down to the same idea of just shoot more, right? Did you reload at minimum 8? Okay, yeah, you had to reload, so that's fine. Could have blocked the shadow with bubble, but like that's super high level tech. You don't need to worry about that. This is good. This is exactly how you want to be doing things, right? Staying at that range, uh, like where you can do stuff and not get threatened. And so your forward back positioning, very good. Your left right positioning, just you want to be near a corner. There's a corner to your left. There's those blocky things like the potted plants to your right. Either of those would have saved you from the hook. Left is a little riskier because like they can come through that tunnel and get you, but right, this range in terms of forward back positioning, perfect. Right? And notice how if you didn't get hooked, right? So if you were playing cover such that you wouldn't get hooked, you would be able to deal just shit tons of damage to them as an 80 charge Zarya, and they would be able to do nothing to you. You could bubble the Brig here. She's taking damage. There you go. Now, the Sim Shield seriously like messes with what your effective range is, right? Because like you do nothing as long as you're behind it. This is like the opposite of what maximum of like what good positioning is in the sense that you can take lots of damage from them, but you are unable to apply any damage. So realistically here, you want to either get on the other side of the sim shield or get completely out of range of the enemy. Now, if we consider the idea of like minimizing downtime, probably getting to the other side of the shield in a way that's safe is the best bet. Again, almost always that means going to the car and using it as cover. Here I would agree, especially since you have Graviton Surge. Like, this you could grab, right? This you can grab. And the reason I'm saying that, well, the reason I'm saying that is because like you grab multiple people, your high charge, you're gonna kill them. But the reason the grab comes into your positioning is because it's like a bailout card. If you get overpressured, you can just grab and then use the car for cover, deal damage as you're safe. You can like, how do I explain this? If you step out for a half second behind cover, you shoot a right click, it deals damage. So if you use the car for cover and you dance around that, like in terms of your left-right positioning with cover, that would let you like use a grab safely and attack. I'm probably going too deep there. Essentially what I was saying was get through the sim shield and play cover. Ryan charges suicidally again. You do get him this time, which is awesome. A little slow on the reaction time, but whatever. Okay. So downtime. Nice. You're pushing forward. I love it. I just heard a Roadhog cook behind you. Yeah, probably checking corners would have been a good idea. Did we see the Mercy heal him? The Roadhog shoots. The Mercy does. You don't see the Mercy heal him. Okay, so realistically, the only way you would have known the Roadhog was there is if you either heard the shots or scouted it. Scouting it was probably a good idea, but we don't need to go into scouting, right? Like awareness is a big thing for a lot of low-level players, but you seem to have like a pretty okay time just looking around and seeing stuff. It might be the map, it might be your natural positioning, it might be how the enemies are playing. But this is the first time I've seen you like seriously miss something. And honestly, I probably might have missed it too if I was actually playing. Yeah. I guess now's probably a good time to talk about grabs. I mean, with this grab range is shorter than you think. You'd never want to grab Moiras as like, you never want to grab with the intention of catching a Moira just because she can fade out. I think you say this is a miscue. Like, maybe you use the term miscue like differently than I do. To me, miscue means I didn't mean to press Q. You meant to press Q. You just fucked up. You should own it. right? Owning it's going to make it easier to fix your mistakes. But I mentioned earlier you could have like used grav. I'm pretty liberal with how I use graviton surge. If I have it and I see two enemies, I just use it. I just send that shit. Especially if they don't have a diva, you just go for it. But this is pretty unfortunate. You do get the Moira. She fades and like fades back into it. We got to talk about left-right positioning here. Now they brought out a Bastion. If you'd pressed tab, you would have known that. Pressing tab, I guess, like you want more information. That's not what I want to focus on in this VOD. As soon as you see this Bastion, you need to be thinking, how do I not die to that, right? Now you don't know where your Reinhardt is. In a half second, he charges through you. But we're going to pretend he doesn't do that because, frankly, charging a Bastion is kind of stupid. Like, that was a bad play. So your priority is kill this Bastion before I die, or get to cover and then kill the Bastion, right? I guess priority is kill the Moira, but then like immediately after we have to be thinking about that. So where do we want to stand? You don't have personal bubble. So realistically, the only place you're safe is like along this wall. So as you're shooting this Moira, I don't know if you saw the Bastion or like noticed it, but you need to be thinking about getting to there instead of backing up, right? You're staying in the line of fire. I know I call it left right positioning here, you're actually moving forward, but you do need to be going towards that wall because, like, again, deal damage to the enemies, don't take damage. Close to that wall is where you can control how much damage you're taking. If you're opening the angle and you're out far from cover, you have no control as to whether or not you take damage. But now, if we're talking about like not shooting stuff, that Roadhog was just kind of there and you weren't shooting him. So like you're 100 charge. Anything you look at should like not should die, will die. Especially something with as big a hitbox as Roadhog. I know your aim like obviously isn't the strongest, and that's something that just comes with time and practice. But like, just shoot the Roadhog, dude. It's unfortunate. Your tracking is just, yeah, it's just life. Okay, good rotation. Yeah, like obviously this is downtime, but this is good downtime because you made a decision to, how do I phrase this differently? Pushing through that front just is like bad because it's scary and you could die and it's very, very bad, right? So that is downtime, that you're not doing anything, but this is okay because the only other option was to effectively feed. Now, debatably, you could have made the decision faster to notice that like shooting this soldier, if I'm not going to kill him, that contributes nothing, right? And so like by doing damage that isn't going to land a kill, I'm not being, that like is sort of downtime, right? Time where you're not, where your aim isn't good enough to hit the soldier is certainly downtime. And so at that point you can probably recognize, you might be able to recognize, okay, I'm not doing anything here, I can reposition. Realistically, I wouldn't worry about it, honestly. Probably shouldn't have gone into it. I want you to notice when you stop shooting, right? And did you just exit range? Okay, yeah, you exited range. You didn't stop shooting. And that's where the idea of maximum effective range comes in. You just kind of step out of range, keep doing damage. Now you could have bubbled there. It's fine, you didn't. It's whatever. I don't really care. Yeah. Bastion. Do I want to go into this? I'll say this. When fights get really hectic, the best thing to do is to find a spot that's safe and stay there. Find a spot that's safe where you can do stuff and stay there until it's not safe, right? So right here where you are, aside from this Roadhog, if you were like, let's play this in the slow-mo. Okay. This is a good range, right? You're close to max beam range, but not so far so that you're going to accidentally leave it. And like you're safe from the enemies. 2 steps to the left and you're close to cover where you can dodge hook. So that's where you want to be. You start to go over there. You see the soul. You see the mercy. Sorry. But now you're getting closer. And think about what the range of Zarya beam is. I'll tell you, it's a heck of a lot longer than this range of the Roadhog right now. And so just considering like maximum effective range, you're too close. And because of that, you're going to take a lot more damage, particularly from the Bastion. The Bastion's fall-off damage is pretty sharp once you get to a decent range. Or maybe it's the spread, I'm not sure. But the point is, Bastion doesn't do a lot of damage at long range. So the fact that you're as close to the Roadhog as you are means you're also closer to the Bastion. It just increases the amount of damage you take. And you die because of it. Right, so you could have played cover there, you could have played the shield better, but I think the easiest way to think about that is that you were just straight up too close. Especially since you were high charge, right? Like, I know you want to play aggressive when you're high charge, but you don't do more damage by being closer, straight up. Unless you're landing right clicks on splash targets. Yeah. So, I think if you live there, you probably, maybe not probably win the fight. You definitely could have had more impact. You certainly aren't the deciding factor in any fight where you're dead, so if you want to play in a way that's independent of your teammates, not dying is a good thing to do. And playing your range properly is a good way to do that. You're not making any attempts to get energy here. This is like the one time I will start talking about bubbling. I think it's here and like on the other side. These are the only fights where you just stay at 0 energy. And if you just like look at the amount of damage going into your Rhine Shield, it seems to be quite a lot. Am I still on speed? I am. It seems to be quite a lot. What you can do with Zarya is you just take a step forward, right, into the spam fire, bubble, and then take a step back. And that'll get you energy. And so when you're talking about minimizing downtime, right, I said everything below 30 energy. I don't know if I said this in this recording. Everything like 30 energy and below is pretty low. Everything 50 energy above is pretty high. Well, everything 50 to 70 energy is like solid. 70 and above energy is like really high and you do crazy amounts of damage. So I'm considering time when you're low energy to be downtime. You minimize that by getting energy. And now that hasn't been a problem with you before. You were able to keep high energy. But yeah, here just like step in front of the Rhine Shield. They're going to start shooting at you. You press shift. You walk back behind the Rhine Shield. You don't need to step very far, really. In fact, you don't even need your whole body to go out because the bubble is like bigger than you are, right? If you're Zarya, this is like you. And you bubble and it's this big. So if the Rhine Shield, if this is Reinhardt here, and his shield is like this, you're still behind the shield, but the bubble is not, you still get energy from that. So if you essentially stand at the shield, press shift, because they're shooting the shield, you're going to take damage. They're not going to take damage, you're going to get energy from that. And the fact that you weren't really making any attempts to get energy is a problem and is contributing to your downtime. Again, here you just want to think about maximum effective range. You're just too close, straight up. It makes aiming harder also, which isn't really a thing I mentioned, but aiming at close range is harder than aiming at long range. I guess it's worth mentioning that it might seem like if you were just straight further back, the payload would LOS you, but like you can just move to the right side of the payload, right? That shouldn't be a problem. You do seem to have this weird tendency to like to be on the left side of the payload that I just noticed. Like this entire time, I don't think you've stood to the right of the payload. I think you did it once, which is kind of funny, but the right side of the payload does exist. Again, downtime, you're not shooting anything. There you go, shooting stuff. The brig booped him out of range, which is fine for you, I guess. Okay. Now probably a good time to start talking about countering Bastion, because you guys get absolutely rolled on an attack. Bastion without a shield is dead 100% of the time, or at least should be. Particularly if you're Zarya with high charge. Super particularly if you're close to cover, right? I don't know exactly how many shots it takes to kill a Bastion who's got like... Sorry. I don't know exactly how many shots it takes to kill a Bastion who's high charge. Or sorry, who has like full healing meter as a Zarya with right clicks, but it's not that many. And at a bare minimum, if you right click him enough times, he will die. I know I'm getting away from like the main topics I wanted to cover, but this is, it's like worth pointing out. I guess you do need to kind of know how to counter Bastion. It's not really counter Bastion, like, anyway, Bastion's a high threat. If you have an opportunity to shoot him, when he's completely on the open, it's probably worth taking. And that's one of the only times, not one of the only, yeah, it's one of the only times that like for you, I would recommend ignoring whatever's closest and ignoring whatever's closest, and like rethinking where you should be in terms of effective range, because an opportunity to kill a bastion that's like in kill range, an opportunity to kill a bastion that could kill your team is definitely worth taking. Um, and you recognize that, but you seem to just not shoot him that much, right? Like, you just don't shoot the bastion that much. Here you get the kill, that's good. But again, too close. So once you start noticing the bastion's coming to you, you should be thinking maximum effective range. Take a couple steps back. Yeah. Now you could have bubbled your Rhine, but when you charged, but again, I don't really want to go too far into bubbles. But this is good. You're doing stuff. Now the Mercy flew left. Shoot the Mercy. Nice. So let's imagine what happens if you don't go as close as you did, right? If you just walk to the right here, instead of getting closer, right, you deal the same amount of damage, but eventually the Mercy's going to have to come out, right? She either jumps off the edge, in which case she dies anyway. You don't get the ult charge, but like she's dead, mission accomplished. Or she flies back to her team using her like Guardian Angel. Either way, she stays in range the whole time. Not either way. Either way, she dies, because if she Guardian Angel, she stays in range of you and you can kill her. By getting closer to her, you make it harder for yourself to aim, and you actually give her a means of cover to break LOS from you. So that's just a different aspect of like effective range, where you can cut off someone's retreat path by staying further away from them and force them to come through you. Now, right now, you're not doing anything, but you already have Graviton Surge, and like your whole team is here regrouped. They're also like close to regrouped, and to get forward, you would have to pretty severely abandon cover. So I'm actually okay with this downtime. But again, not shooting. You saw the Bastion. You shoot him once. Keep shooting the freaking guy, right? Like, you don't need to stop. Reinhardt does die, and that's too bad. The fight's lost here, though. This visor comes out. Something I want to note: you recognize that the visor is going on, and you bubble to block the damage, but you don't send your E, right? I don't know. I don't know what to say about that besides the fact that like I find it odd that you noticed, hey, I should bubble to like not die here. I'm gonna pause on the screen. I should bubble to not die, but you didn't bubble the teammate. I know you're like you again want to play in like a more independent of the team way, but saving a teammate is worth so much. So I guess despite the fact that you're high energy, like you seem to bubble for energy a lot. That is one thing to think about with bubbles. Now don't worry about this too much until you get to higher level, but like bubbling to save a teammate once you're already high energy is a thing you should do. If I'm 90 charge, I don't need to worry about getting to low. Like, I don't need to try to build more energy once I'm 90 charge, right? Like, I'm already 90 charge. So at that point, if I can save a teammate with my E, I'm going to try to do that. I don't want to go into examples too much here because, like, yeah, I don't know. The reason I pause on the screen is because I just want to point out specifically with bubbles, you have no problem with energy at all. 65% average charge, it's really high. If I finish a game with 65 average charge, I'm usually finishing that game with like 20k damage, but you have 3.6k damage, right? Now I know your aim's not the best, but realistically, like, I don't know how much DPS Zarya does at 65% charge, but it's like a lot, right? And so I think this screen just really illustrates the point that your bubbling is actually quite a lot better than you think it is, but your amount of downtime is really detrimental to your effectiveness and your solo carry potential. I'm just gonna skip forward because not much to talk about here. Like, looking at the rest of this attack from the perspective of left and right positioning, i.e., like playing cover, and forward back positioning is in playing your effective range, should get you along pretty well. I just want to go to this fight, and I want to talk about bubbling specifically in this fight because you completely struggle to get energy. And specifically your personal bubble here. So like you waited a long time to personal bubble, right? You're zero energy, this is downtime, you're not shooting, you're zero energy, not shooting, now you're shooting. And so you're not gonna get charged unless you bubble. A Bastion is shooting your Rhine. You can bubble him, you can step in front of the shield, and use bubble and then step behind the shield. Just making some attempt to get charged is probably worth it. Against like a very high level player, maybe, I don't even know, they might do it in bronze, but like high level players will shoot the corner of the shield so that they don't charge a potential Zarya bubble if it does come out on the Rhine. But like I'm pretty confident that if you just step in front of the shield and bubble, you're gonna get shot. But here, like you bubble from behind the shield, there's actually no way where the Bastion can do damage to you. So questionable bubble. When the Brig goes in, you can bubble that, and that will get you charge. Anytime you see someone get hooked, you can bubble that, and that will get you charge. And so either of these two targets on the screen here, right? This is a potential bubble for energy. This is a potential bubble for energy. So yeah, again, I don't want to go into bubbling too much because you like bubbling is quite good. You just don't do it very much. Like you seem to be able to recognize when is a good bubble because almost always when you send out a bubble, it gets stuff done. That personal bubble aside, you just don't seem to do it enough. So maybe looking for those opportunities more is better. But yeah, that's a good bubble. That was like a fine bubble. Because yeah, I don't want to talk about the bubble. But then if you look at this from maximum effective range, you're too freaking close, man. Like you're gonna get bopped. You notice it, you back up, but like some scary times. Yeah, is there anything I want to talk about? Not really. Like, could bubble the Mercy. Could be looking to use Graviton. Um, I guess just the fact that you're not really doing much. You're not being. This is like too much downtime, right? And it's only too much downtime because your Reinhardt is taking damage, right? Which, like, because your Reinhardt shield is taking damage, you're on the clock. And so their downtime is lower than yours, which means they win. Right? Your team is taking damage, your team is taking damage, your team is taking damage, but you're not applying damage. And so I guess that's, yeah. Talk about downtime. And so, like, what are ways you could have increased your uptime here? Could have gone up the stairs, I suppose. Shot down from above them, peeked in front of the Rhine shield, shoot them. But you'd seem to be unwilling to threaten them. Especially since you have Graviton Surge and your full charge, and there's 1 minute left. If you get a Graviton here on even 2 people, you just win the game. So, yeah. These kinds of fights are brutal where, like, you feel like you were playing, like, responsibly, I guess, and then your whole team dies around you. But realistically, I haven't felt your impact this fight. It's a really good shield. You should be, like, fiending looking for Graviton Surge right now. Just because that Simwall was so good. Well, maybe not. It's debatable. Yeah. I will quickly mention you can be way more liberal with Graviton Surge at any point in a 6v6. If you can hit 2 people, you just send it. And because like a 6v4, you always win. But yeah, that basically wraps it up. I don't want to watch the rest of this because it's gonna take a long time, and I'm basically gonna keep saying the same thing that I've been saying for the last 15 or the last like hour ish. Maximum effective range, playing corners, shoot stuff, and good work. Honestly, like I'm serious in saying that like your energy is stupid high, and if you just shoot more stuff, eventually your aim will get better, and you will absolutely murk people on Zarya. So yeah, cool.